You shouldn't be able to buy a gun. So today, I'm proposing the 28th Amendment.
Is it a conspiracy now? Do you guys need to hear it again? Keep playing the video over and over again. Democrats want to do the same thing that Mexico did. Disarm its people so then the government can have all the control. And people from Mexico know better than even I what that feels like. To not be able to protect yourself, your family, without a Second Amendment, without a firearm. Let me know, is it still conspiracy or is it right in your noses? Ahí véanlo otra vez.
So apparently California's Governor Gavin Newsom thinks that majority of the American public is stupid. He must think we're stupid because he's opposing right now a 28th Amendment. Currently right now we only have 27 amendments, a part of the Constitution. So he wants to add an additional amendment, and this amendment, he says, will not affect the Second Amendment, which is our right to bear arms. But he said this amendment will basically, curve a lot of the gun issues we had in America most recently. So he basically wants to apply more gun control laws onto the American public. And first of all, when I heard this from him, I was thinking the audacity of this man. I mean, he's from a state that he governs over. And also keep in mind, he used to be mayor of a city, San Francisco, which basically is one of the insidious, nastiest, dirtiest cities ever right now. And it's also reflected in the state as a whole. I mean, think about it. He's the governor of a state that right now is high in homelessness, high in crime, high in drug addictions, high in state income tax, public lewdness, and numerous illegal immigrants that are crossing border into his state. And you add up all that, but this man still has the audacity to want to put forth a 28th Amendment for gun control. Really, dude? I swear, some of these people, man, they suffer from so much hubris, they don't see the idiocy of their own statements. So anyway, he puts out this video here, and let's basically just, make a quick reaction to it.
Every time, it's the same. They tell us we can't stop these massacres. They tell us we have to stand by and watch tragedy after tragedy unfold in our communities. They say we can't stop domestic terrorism without violating the Second Amendment, and that thoughts and prayers are the best we can do. I'm here to say that's a lie. In this country, we do have the power to change things, to reclaim our freedom from fear. Our ability to make a more perfect union is literally written into the Constitution. So today, I'm proposing the 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution to do just that. The 28th Amendment permanently enshrines 4 additions to the laws of...
All right. Now, keep in mind that he's basically pulling at people's heartstrings, speaking to our emotions as opposed to something logical. Now, he can present it as it's something logical, but it's really something that's based on emotions, kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. And of course, Gavin Newsom is known to do this. If you could recall, he done a lot of or very similar, I don't want you to call these videos public announcement videos or whatever you might call them. He did that very similar 2 to 3 years ago during the pandemic out there in California. So he's very used to this. So you have to be mindful of the fact of who this man is and his past as well is. I believe he's somewhat related to Nancy Pelosi, the head of the House in Congress. But she's basically a lifelong politician, and there's no need to go down that rabbit hole right there. But the fact that he's related to her says a lot.
Of our land. It raises the minimum age to purchase a firearm from 18 to 20.
Now, raising the age limit from 18 to 21 sounds pretty good. I ain't gonna lie, that sounds pretty logical. But if you do that, it's gonna cause a snowball effect for the other things where you have to be over 21 to do or over 18 to do, which is 1, serve in the military, and then 2, vote. Now, we also know that Democrats especially are not going to want to raise the age limit to vote from 18 to 21, and definitely not do the same thing from military, raise the age limit from 18 to 21. You lose those 3 years of growing strong men to serve into the military. And of course, they don't want to raise the age limit from 18 to 21 to vote, because the younger you are, I hate to say it, I'm not going to say stupid. Well, yeah, stupid. I was the same way too. But the more less informed you are as a young person. I mean, believe Congresswoman Ayanna Presley from Massachusetts, she wanted to lower the age limit to vote to 16. So what are they saying? They basically just want to get dumb people to vote so they could trick and manipulate them to vote on their behalf. So raise the gun age limit to 21. It's not a bad idea, but it's far-fetched due to the fact that it's going to lead to other things you're going to have to raise the age limit on as well. And since you're not going to do that, then you should not apply the same thing to own a gun. If you could vote when you're 21 and you could serve in the military at 21, you should be able to own a gun at 21. And I think also buy alcohol. It just basically is all in line for the same age.
21. Because if you can't buy a beer, you shouldn't be able to buy a gun. It mandates universal background checks.
Now, you got to be careful. He said it mandates universal background checks. But if you notice that, he didn't put the word universal in there. He just put mandatory background checks. And this fooled me years ago because I was like, yeah, we should have mandatory background checks because I thought we did. And we actually do have mandatory background checks. But what he's saying, not what he's showing, but what he's saying is that he wants universal background checks. And what you have to realize when you look through history, universal background checks leads into a gun registration. And once you have a registry for all the people that own guns, then you can have a gun confiscation done. This is basically has been done in history. Like I said, if you don't know your history, you tend to repeat it. But just about 20, 30 years ago in Australia, they had the same thing in, I think, 95, 96. They had a gun buyback. And 10 years prior, they had a gun registry due through universal background checks. And most notably, the most famous one was Nazi Germany. I believe in 1939 or 1940, while World War II was ramping up, the Nazis or Hitler's regime had a gun buyback or actually gun confiscation done on the people of Germany. And of course, what do you think happened in the 1920s, 10 years prior? A registry. So when you know that the history states that a registry eventually leads into buyback, i.e. confiscation, then it tells you right now, when they ask for universal background checks, you want to say no to that because you know what's coming down the road.
Prevent truly dangerous people from purchasing a gun that can be used in a crime. It institutes reasonable waiting periods for all gun purchases.
Waiting periods, that's very subjective because, of course, every state is different. For instance, here in Texas, by the time you walk in the store, the waiting period is done. You know what I'm saying? That's how it is in Texas. But I know in Florida, I think it's like 3 days, 3 business days. I think out in California is about 2 weeks or something like that. So every state is different. However, some states are pretty extreme. The only one I know on top of my head is New York. I believe it's like 3 to 6 months. And that's not to get a gun. That's basically to get licensed. So this is one of those things where you don't want the federal government to have too much of the hand over. I mean, you got to remember, the name of this country is called United States of America. It's not America. It's states that unite to create the country. So every state have their own type of jurisdiction. And that's how it was basically, how the country was built upon. So every state should have their way to govern. And as long as things are not being so, way out of line and things of that nature, but every state has their own identity to a degree. So this waiting period should not be enforced by the federal government. I mean, for God's sakes, especially right here in Texas, the federal government came and controlled the border patrol. I mean, the borders is their job. Granted, it's along the state lines of Texas, Arizona, California, and New Mexico, but it's the federal government's job to take care of that. And they're not even doing a good job with that. And we want them to basically have more jurisdiction on gun control? Man, get the hell out of here.
And it bans civilians from buying assault rifles, those weapons of war our founding fathers never foresaw. This will guarantee states as well the ability to enact common sense gun safety laws while leaving the Second Amendment intact. And
yeah, it would not leave the Second Amendment intact because, like I said, eventually it's going to infringe onto the Second Amendment. Once again, the Second Amendment was basically for you to have the right for a regulated militia. That's what it's for, to protect the people from the government. That's what it's for. Because like I said, if you're going to take my guns, or, if I had a gun, but if you're going to take that, the only way I would say I would contemplate giving it up is, one, you take it away from all the criminals. And two, you address the mental issues that we have in America. That's only two ways where I will even think about, giving up my gun. Otherwise, why should I give it up? You basically gonna make the criminals have the guns because they're not gonna give it back. And law enforcement's gonna have the guns, of course, to protect the public, supposedly. And of course, armed security for the elites like himself are gonna have access to guns.
And respecting America's gun-owning tradition. The 28th locks in the common sense constitutional protections that Democrats, Republicans, independents, and gun owners overwhelmingly support.
See that? Obviously, a lot of people do agree with this. It's over 80% agree with the waiting period, raising the minimum age, background checks. The price is real low for banned assault rifles. But obviously, it all sounds good. Of course, you said background check. Yeah, everyone should get their background check before they buy a gun. And that already happens. You go buy a gun, you fill out a form by the ATF. They send it over to, the Firearms League, the FFL. They basically have the FBI run the background check through the NCIS, the National Criminal Instant Registry or whatever system it is. And then boom, you get a gun. So they already do a background check. I guess what the government is also looking to get is to also do background checks between private sellers. And that's something that you don't want to sign up to because, like I said, that eventually will lead to a gun registry.
And it ensures NRA-owned politicians can never strip those protections away.
And of course, they, put these... This guy has a hard-on for these governors. He has a hard-on for Florida's governor, Ron DeSantis, and Texas governor, Greg Abbott. And of course, I'm sure, I didn't do my research, but I'm sure they got a lot of money from the NRA. I'm sure they are. A lot of these politicians are pretty crooked. They don't really work for the people. They really work for their, the lobbyists and so forth. It is what it is. But this is the pot calling the kettle black because we know Gavin Newsom. We know who's in his pockets. You know what I'm saying? We know Big Pharma is putting a lot of money in his pockets. So, who is he to talk?
This fight won't be easy, and it certainly won't be fast. Convening a constitutional convention requires 2/3 of the states to call for this. California will be the first, but that's just the beginning. Join us by going to...
Yeah, don't join him. Yeah, don't even sign up for that petition. This guy's he's a, like I said, a snake oil salesman. I mean, don't get me wrong. He looks like a prototypical politician, like tall, good looking man. Pause, no homo. If I can admit, he's pretty much a good looking man with the hair, the height and everything, the smile. You know what I'm saying? I can understand, how people will look at him and be like, oh yeah, I want to vote for him. Not me. But yeah, don't fall for this guy. He wants to enact a federal law into the Constitution that's going to regulate your Second Amendment. That's what he wants to do. And even if you don't agree that people should have the right to bear arms, you should at least agree that people should have the right to have the freedom and the option if they want to bear arms or not. And if you want to have some, more guidelines and more, restrictions to a certain degree, I could understand that. And we could talk about that. But this, no, it's not happening. So leave a comment in the notes below. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you think that we should have a 28th Amendment that would basically enforce more gun laws on us as Americans? I don't think so, but I want to know what you think.